Okay, I'm here in front of Mel's Diner on Hollywood Boulevard in Highland. And this location was mentioned the other day in Diddy's trial in one of the situations that might be Diddy's undoing. So imagine it's somewhere between 07 and 09, and we're in this parking lot in a big built-up area. Hollywood High School is right there. This is really the center of Hollywood, where Biggie was killed at the Peterson Museum. It's maybe a mile and a half from here, mile. This is central Hollywood. This is the heart of the action. And Diddy's assistant is here getting some food with Damian D-Rock Butler. D-Rock was a guy left over from the Junior Mafia area. He was, left over from the era when Biggie was still alive. He was there at the Peterson the night Biggie was killed, and they see Suge Knight in the parking lot. And D-Rock, for whatever reason, maybe attempting to defuse or take the temperature of the situation, goes up to Suge and says, "Hey, this is D-Rock, Biggie's boy." I don't know why I would say that. And Suge is like, "Oh, what are you doing in my city?" Says, "Oh, just out here getting money." And he thinks everything is cool. And him and Diddy's assistant, the one who testified in the trial, are both hanging out here waiting on their food. And suddenly a bunch of SUVs pull up. And it's Suge's guys. And the assistant testifies he sees Suge be handed a pistol. So they leave in fear. They go back to Diddy's Hollywood Hills home, and Diddy gets another bodyguard, and they all hop into the, the three of them? They all hop into Diddy's SUV, or one of the SUVs, and this assistant testifies he looks in the back and sees Diddy has 3 pistols on his lap. So there were at least 3 guns in the car. And we know from testimony, Diddy was high on different things all the time. Different drugs can give you an air of invincibility along with his wealth. Obviously, Diddy is the Teflon Don. He avoided prison for the 9 deaths at the basketball game that he sponsored early in his career, which it's actually quite amazing he got out of any even manslaughter charges for that, in that he knowingly doubles, the capacity of that place was 4,000, he sold 8,000 tickets. He knowingly created a situation that he could have known resulted in death, which it did, to the tune of 9 people. So he got out of that. Remember, he went on trial in the Manhattan nightclub shooting where Shine ended up going to prison. He went on trial for that. So he went to trial and won before. That's why he's not scared to do this. So this is 07, 08. Puffy's music career is at a low point, but he's been making himself famous from his MTV shows. Let's see, the liquor, Ciroc, he worked for him 17 years. The Ciroc thing was just about to start or hadn't quite started yet. And he's here in LA, and they're riding back to Mel's Diner, thinking Suge is going to be here. Puffy had to be planning on shooting him, and the prosecution introduced this as part of the evidence in the racketeering portion of the trial. Now, I think we can all agree on the fact that Diddy has some unsavory habits and doesn't seem like a very likable person, but that's not a reason to get 10, 20 years or life in prison. But racketeering to get you 20 years. And I think the prosecution is doing, they're presenting these multiple acts of threats, intimidation, and violence spread over different years and different situations. So remember, we had that Capricorn clerk, the assistant, testify about basically being held hostage for several days, being forced to take lie detector tests by a man who probably was Paul P.J. Buford, imprisoned BMF member who also worked as Puffy security, about some missing jewelry from Jacob the Jeweler. She was forced to go with Diddy to Kid Cudi's apartment. They had her house. They had gotten the key from Cassie. They broke in the house. Kid Cudi thinks Diddy set his truck on fire. So now that was maybe in 16. Now we're back in 2008 at Mel's Diner, and Puffy is riding with 3 guns on his lap to go confront Suge Knight. And with Puffy and Suge Knight, it wasn't going to be an argument. I mean, even whatever Puffy was intending, if Suge Knight's up there with a couple SUVs full of guys, they're going to make him shoot. So there could have been a shootout right here. So luckily when they got here, Suge and them had left already. And the assistant quit not long after that, and now he's testifying for the prosecution. So have they established a pattern of RICO, of racketeering? And very important in that is if he is using acts of violence or potential acts of violence to create an air of intimidation. Remember the language from the Big U indictment. If I create an air of danger and intimidation, Al Prophet will kill you, then anything I do, any business discussion I have with you, hey man, give me some money, let me borrow some money, let me do this, it's all under the umbrella of you're fearful of Al Prophet because I've created an air of an intimidation and danger by doing actual things and saying I'm going to do other things. Have they shown so far, or will by the end of the trial they have shown that Diddy had an ongoing pattern of violence in different times and places that created an air of intimidation, so that someone like Cassie, who on the one hand you think, well gee, you were with them 10 years, you were the one calling the male escorts, you were down with the program. But if Puffy is shown to be, if Sean Combs is shown to be through these different violent acts or potential violent acts, someone like a mafia boss, someone who has hundreds of millions of dollars at his disposal, unknown cronies in any city willing to do stuff, and that he personally hits people, pulls guns, and puts 3 guns on his lap to drive to a guy, Suge Knight, who has a well-documented history of violence, gang leadership, many murders around Suge. Suge, if you didn't know, the reason Suge had to take that 27-year plea for running over that guy, which the crime in and of itself, you'd think, well, Suge was in a parking lot and 2 tough gang members came to confront him and he got scared and pulled off. Why the hell did he have to get 27 years for that? Well, they were on the verge of giving Suge a RICO like they just gave Big U. He had been getting money from athletes and celebrities and intimidating people worse than Big U. It seemed like Big U was imitating what Suge had been doing. So Suge had a racketeering pattern, and they kind of let all that stuff drop in exchange for him taking the 27 years. So if they can show Diddy, like Big U, created an air of intimidation, then all the stuff Cassie saying I was scared to leave, well, then that makes sense. All these other people saying they operated under fear because they saw him do violent acts, like the potential one here at Mel's Diner, could get Puffy maybe 20 years for RICO. So between the Kid Cudi, between this going up to Suge with 3 guns, between beating up Cassie in public, not just on the tape we saw, but also people testified they were like at Nobu. Like, I've eaten at Nobu in Malibu. I can't imagine punching a woman in the face at Nobu. Like, that just sounds crazy. So do you guys think that they've shown a pattern of violent intimidation or what?